Hello and welcome back to our final lecture of this course, GPU Optimization of Advanced Encryption Standard. So last time we optimized Advanced Encryption Standard on CUDA devices using the table-based implementation technique. Now we will see what performance we have achieved with this implementation, and also we will compare our results with the publications in the literature to see why this table-based implementation is better than the previous ones. So let's first look at the previous results. So in the literature, there are many GPU results implementing AES either using counter mode of operation or ECB mode of operation, and they achieve high speeds of encryption like here in terms of gigabits per second. So these numbers are really huge. So the main problem with these papers is that they don't share their source code. Okay, so we don't know the main, actually, we cannot compare them because they're not publicly available. But in order for a scientific experiment to be, scientifically sound, it should be reproducible. So we should have the source code because when I want to compare my results with this one, I no longer can obtain a GTX 780. It is manufactured around 2013. So generally, it is not easy to get hold of one of them. So main problem is that we cannot compare our results with these previous results, but also, except the last one, this 605 gigabits per second results, all of the previous ones are table-based implementation, and in those papers they always explain how they did it, and almost all of them are identical. But the thing is that the speeds are here increasing because GPUs are getting better. So maybe the implementations might be even worse than the previous papers, but since they have a better GPU, they are faster than the previous results. So this is not a fair comparison in this sense. Also, in all of these papers, they say that they are like 10 times, 20 times, or 30 times faster than CPU. This is also not correct because if you simply perform a C implementation on a CPU and then compare it with your CUDA implementation, you only can say that your implementation is like 20 times faster than the C implementation, but not the best performance of that CPU, because since 2010, actually Intel and AMD CPUs have hardware level AES instruction sets. These are called AES NI. NI is short for new instructions. So actually you can perform encryption at the hardware level on CPUs. So as you can see, this CPU from 2010 can achieve 102 gigabits per second, which is already faster than some of the claimed best results on GPUs. As you can see, the CPU actually beats GTX 780 implementation. So this result is obtained by using 6-core Intel CPU. So I repeated the experiment by using a 4-core device and 8-core Intel i7 CPUs. And since each core has these hardware instructions, so these numbers actually scale with the number of cores. So today we have like 20 core CPUs, like i9 Intel series, etc. So we can actually see 200 or 300 gigabits per second at the CPU level. So GPUs actually doesn't get like 10 times speed up compared to CPUs. So I will come back to that. This is also not a fair comparison because CPUs consume less electricity than GPUs, right? Anyway, so first let's focus on our results. So we obtain a table-based implementation which doesn't have any shared bank memory conflict. So all of the previous results here, these results except the final row, are table-based implementations and they all have shared bank memory conflicts. So we removed them. So as I mentioned, you can already look at the codes. The codes are actually have more functions, like you can also use these codes for key search, where you perform a brute force attacks. But you can also use these optimizations for random number generation, etc. So having a very fast encryption is nice. So, but also these results are academically published around 2025. you can see this reference. So in that paper, I used these GPUs, two mobile GPUs and two desktop GPUs, one of the best ones at the time, but we didn't have the 4000 series at the time, so we used like, compared to today's GPUs, these are kind of can be seen as small amount of cores. And these clock rates are the maximum boost rates these devices achieve. But we use different architecture just to see that our optimization is not valid only for a specific architecture, but it is valid for all of them. And these are our optimization results. So if you run our codes in these devices, you will see that you can even achieve 878 gigabits per second on an RTX 2070 super GPU. And if you increase the key length, since the number of runs increases, the speeds are going down a little bit. But even if you look at the Ultrabook GPU, MX250, and even if you use AES with 256-bit keys, you achieve 60 gigabits per second. So this is a huge number. This kind of also means that the encryption is free. That is, you wouldn't feel the encryption on decryption speeds because most of the time your hard disk read and write speeds are not this fast. But anyway, if you have a very good GPU, you achieve very high speed. So let's only take these two GPU results for AES-128 and put it in the previous table. So the green ones are the ones we achieve. So as you can see, our result is the highest compared to, with respect to gigabits per second. But also important thing is that our result on a GTX 970 achieves 315 gigabits per second. And in the literature, same GPU is used, but with a table-based implementation, and they achieve 123 gigabits per second. So removing the shared memory bank conflicts, and this was actually the bottleneck in all of these implementation, provides us more than 2.5 times speed up. From 123 to we move on to 315. But again, I still don't see that this comparison is fair because each device consumes different amount of electricity. So actually we should divide these numbers to watts. So we can measure how many gigabits per second we achieve per watt. And as you can see, CPUs are not that bad. So if you are not going to use a huge amount of encryption, then you don't need to move on to GPU, but still GPUs are a lot better. And we have like currently we have RTX 4090 GPU, which actually provides a lot better performance compared to the others. So this is the one we observed. So we actually see that our table-based implementation is better than the best bitsliced implementation in the literature. So this is one observation. But another thing we have to look at very recently, and by very recently, I mean just a few days ago, a new paper is published where people achieved 1623 gigabits per second on an RTX 3080 using a bitsliced implementation. So actually this raises the question if the bitsliced implementation is faster than our table-based implementation. But the same thing applies to this paper too. They don't share their codes, but also our codes were publicly available. They didn't run our codes on their GPU. So they compared their speed with respect to our speed, but our speed was with RTX 2070 Super, which only contained 2,500 cores, but they obtained these results on a GPU which has more than 3 times more cores. So this is again not a fair comparison. And if you are only going to look at the numbers, our table-based implementation that doesn't have any shared bank memory conflicts achieves 4,215 gigabits per second on an RTX 4090. So as you can see, this is a very huge speed, more than 4 terabits per second. This also means that actually the encryption is free. So nowadays during cyber attacks, databases leaks, and we always say that why didn't you encrypt them? And they say that encryption takes a lot of time. If you use a high-level programming language, yes, then encrypting gigabits of data might take some time. But if you use low-level languages like CUDA or C, or if you use the hardware-level instructions of CPUs, actually you wouldn't feel this speed slowdown, because these are very huge speeds. So in our codes, what we are going to do is actually follows. When you run the code on the GPU that you have, you will choose how many encryptions or how many blocks you are going to do. So if you choose, like for the power is 40, you will encrypt 2 to the 40 blocks, and there are codes that are public level will tell you how many seconds it took. So each block is 128 bits, then multiply it with 2 to the 40 and divide the number of seconds or milliseconds it takes, then you obtain this gigabits per second or terabits per second speed up. So you can also run the code on your own GPU and see the results. So the references we used, actually these three are from the table-based implementations and the bitsliced implementations of previous results. 4 is the hardware level instruction used CPU implementation of AES and the results. 5 was from my shared table-based implementation without any shared memory bank conflicts. And this final one is the recently published December 2024. So run the codes yourself and see how fast your GPUs are with respect to encryption. Thank you for your attention, and this concludes our course and our discussion of CUDA optimization of Advanced Encryption Standard. Thank you for listening.